to Gorilla Sports Off Court. I am your host for today, Liv Moods, and in just a moment, joined by Brandon Krisztal. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Gorilla Sports Off Court. I'm Liv Moods. That is Brandon Krisztal. And we have much to discuss, BK. Last night, the Nuggets ended up winning against the Golden State Warriors. And actually, I will tell you, I used some profane language when my mom texted me and said, no Jokic, no Jamal, no CB. I typed the words we're F blank. I think you can fill in the rest. I was not feeling overly confident. Yeah, we're fooled. Exactly.
We were fooled.
We were. Yes, we were. So that actually isn't super far off. But I was not going into this game expecting there to be this, not just a win by the Nuggets, but maybe some of their best basketball we have seen them play as a team. Now, that's the key word, as a team. Of course, we've had big standout games from Jamal Murray. Nikola Jokic does what Nikola Jokic does. CB has been wildly consistent and exceeding expectations. Earlier in the season, we said if he can average 15 points a game, we'll be feeling pretty good. He has done more than that this year. And so as a team, this felt like maybe their best win of the season. And so I want to, of course, we're going to get into all things Denver Nuggets talk in just a little bit, but I kind of want to start with a more general around the NBA conversation here. The Lakers rise to 4th in the West. Houston wins their 7th straight game. We've talked about this many times. There is no team in the Western Conference that should be underestimated. I don't care if it's the 7th seed, the 8th seed, the Houston Rockets, the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Nuggets. It doesn't matter. The West is stacked, and Houston is on an absolute heater. And I think what I'm gathering right now overall, BK, is that the East will be way less interesting than the West per usual. The West is stacked and extremely tight. Right now, Denver and Houston actually have the same record. The Houston Rockets, like I said, on a 7-game win streak right now. And there is a 1-game difference between the number 2 seed and the number 5 seed. That is how tight this race is in the Western Conference, as opposed to the Eastern Conference, where you've got those 2 teams at the top, the Cavs and the Celtics, and then everyone kind of feels like they're pretty far down below those 2. But in the West, it is a very, very tight race. BK, what are your overall feelings and thoughts right now about where the West stands? Do you think this will be about where we see it end towards the end of the regular season?
I don't have every team's schedule memorized, so that's the tricky part. We know that the Nuggets, they played the Wizards Saturday, lost, worst loss of the year, bounced back, biggest win of the year. But I know that they still have 12 of their, 13 games?
Yeah.
That can be right. So 11 of 13 games because they had, 15 before Friday's game. So 15, 14, 13. Oh, so 12 games. So 10 of their 12 games that are left are against playoff teams or teams that are play-in eligible, at least when you talk about teams like the Bulls. And so no easy path there, knowing that you've got Memphis in there. I think Houston twice. And you're going to the Lakers tomorrow night. You're going to see the Bucks come in next week, among others. And so we can talk about where the Nuggets are, but I don't know what Houston's schedule looks like. How many times are they playing Dallas, who's clearly falling off?
Strength of schedule matters for sure.
Dallas is clinging to that 10th seed. And we can probably look up who has the toughest strength of schedule. So it's hard to sit here and say, oh, this is how it's going to finish. Other than we know OKC's going to be number 1. They might even lock that up within the next day or 2 because no team will be able to catch them with the amount of games left. But I think that if you're the Nuggets, you're angling all you can to finish 2, 3, or 6.
Yeah.
And you can't, I'm not saying you can't drop to 6. And that's what Michael Malone told us Friday before the Lakers nail biter that they snuck out of with the win, and even after it, that we could go from 2nd to 7th really easily here in this last.
Yeah, there's a 1-game difference between 2 and 5 right now.
And that's going to continue to stay about the same. I think that is what factored into how the Nuggets approached Monday night. And I know we're going to talk more broadly about that, but that, okay, we're jockeying with all these teams, but we're not jockeying with Golden State. So a loss to Golden State will hurt, but then if we beat these other teams directly, it will make up for it because we will then have an even bigger gap over the Lakers. A win against the Lakers drops the Lakers, further down. So it's not just about the head-to-head. It's creating separation, beating Memphis, beating Houston, knowing you've got those teams on your schedule. You got to maybe pick and choose your spots. So Monday, when they play the Bulls here, we might see some more guys that are nicked up. It's hard to call it load management when you know that Jamal legitimately hurt his ankle Saturday, and
They've been
Joker
riddled with injuries.
And we know Joker banged his elbow up. AG's calf looked great last night, but so it's hard to say that it's going to look just like this. I don't think any teams are going to sneak up and surprise you. Like, I don't know if the Clippers are jumping to fourth.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I agree. Well, as it stands right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the Nuggets would be facing the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, based on last night's game with no Jamal, no Jokic, no CB, and the Nuggets still able to get a win there. You've got to feel okay about that matchup if it were to be a 7-game series, agast a team. I think that the Nuggets could compete well against the Golden State Warriors, or could they? Because BK, this is something we're going to get into a little bit later in the show, at the fact that the Denver Nuggets looked like they played their best basketball with stars missing, and this seems to kind of be a pattern with them this season, where they have that next man up mentality. They rise to the occasion when they know that they're without guys that they maybe depend on a little too much during the regular season, i.e. Nikola Jokic. When you know you've got Nikola Jokic out there, I think you definitely take your foot off the gas a little bit. The effort looks a little bit different, and I don't excuse that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's okay, but we definitely see that all the time. The next topic I do want to talk about, though, and I want to let you guys know that I am flirting with the idea of starting a new segment called Livid, a play on words where I just go off, because I typically do that anyhow, BK. You have to talk me off of ledges quite a bit when it comes to the Denver Broncos or the Denver Nuggets. So if you see me say I'm livid, that is just me putting a formal title to what I already do, which is rant and vent and get things off of my chest. And that brings me to the next topic. And I'm just going to go in, and then I'm going to get BK's maybe less heated thoughts on the matter. But it brings me to national media heads, again, back on their BS. There was an ESPN NBA senior writer that went ahead and got on the mic and said, it is a horrible look for the league that the Nuggets decided to rest Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray against the Golden State Warriors. And in his commentary, he did say, I would have rested them against the Wizards. And BK and I actually entertained that idea. Hey, against the Wizards, that might be a good opportunity to get guys like Jokic and Jamal some rest. Now, here's where I go off again. When you're talking about the Denver Nuggets, and one, I think a lot of these national media heads are neglecting to remember that Jokic has battled a lot of silent, quiet injuries that haven't maybe been publicized and or formally put on an injury report list. We know
we saw him hurt his elbow last Monday, and it was all that they were talking about throughout the entire broadcast.
Correct. All you got to do is look at the scars on his arms and know that he plays pretty physical in these games. He gets beat up on quite a bit in these games. So it is not abnormal that he may want to rest his body a little bit against a tough team in the Golden State Warriors. We know that the Golden State Warriors are one of the hottest teams right now. So do you want to put him at risk this close to the playoffs? So that's neither here nor there. Whatever Coach Malone and the Denver Nuggets decide to do with their players in terms of resting their bodies. And by the way, it becomes very obvious, the people that don't pay attention to the Denver Nuggets closely enough, because this entire starting five has dealt with injuries all season. So we're lucky we've been able to watch them play as many games as we've watched them play. But for this reporter to say it's a horrible look for the league to not play Jokic and not play Jamal. Well, I'm here to tell you something. Anthony Edwards has played 67 games this season. And these are just a few players that I would say are really great looks for the league. Okay. 67 games for him. SGA has played 66. Jokic has played 62. So he's third of just a few players that I decided to grab. Donovan Mitchell, 61. Steph Curry, 59. LeBron, 58. So keep the same energy with other players that decide not to play or are resting their bodies, because it does happen across the league. This is not just a Denver issue. This is not just a Nikola Jokic issue. More importantly, what's not a good look for the team is the Golden State Warriors, who are one of the hottest teams in the league right now, losing to a Jokic list and a Jamal Murray list and a CB list Denver Nuggets team. That's what's not a good look for the league. It has nothing to do with the fact that these players chose to sit, chose to rest. What's not a good look is the Golden State Warriors not being able to hang with a team that was without their star-studded players. The Nuggets have been riddled with injuries all season long. Choosing to rest their starters against a tough team and allowing their second unit to get some valuable minutes against a contender is, one, very important and up to Coach Malone, and two, completely irrelevant to the game that we watched last night. And this just seems to be a pattern. When the Nuggets do something great, let's find a way to discredit them. When Jokic does something great, let's find a way to discredit him. It's a very weird thing. I don't know why these national media heads have like a bone to pick with the Denver Nuggets at all times, it feels like. But I just don't know how that was relevant to the game last night. If anything, we should be praising the bench guys because at the beginning of the season, that was a large concern for national media heads is where is the depth on this Nuggets team and will this second unit be enough for them to compete against contending teams? I think the Warriors can be a contender, and our second unit and the starting five that we saw last night competed just fine. So that should be what we're talking about, and not the fact that it's not a good look that Jokic decided to rest and or Jamal or CB or whoever. That is up to the coach. That is up to the team. And it's very clear that reporter maybe doesn't realize how injured this Denver Nuggets team has been all season long.
And to look back at Saturday night with Jamal rolling his ankle. I get it's not the most devastating injury, but LeBron goes down against the Celtics. Got a groin issue. It does happen to coincide with that stretch where he said, man, the schedule makers are really, giving it to it. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but where he's looking at that stretch of games with the Bucks and whoever else is in there and Celtics. And then he is now hurt through all of that. He was back on the court Sunday. We'll see if he plays Wednesday. Monday, you had them ended up on ESPN. Wednesday's definitely on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get Luka, and you're going to have that level of revenge. Plus, you have what happened Friday night. When I say level of revenge, I'm saying the Nuggets trying to beat the Lakers with Luka and perhaps with LeBron, like we saw them lose here a few Saturdays back. But when you look at Joker plays, and I'd almost be willing to bet Michael Malone and the training staff and Calvin Booth and Josh Kroenke decided that Joker was sitting last night. That there's a world where Joker probably did want to play or tough it out. Like,
of course, we know he does that often.
They're protecting him from himself after even giving him the option a week ago Monday against OKC. And so I think your point's spot on, though. You did seem, I've seen you more livid, but you were pretty livid.
I have been way more livid before in my life, that's for sure.
But I do think that your point about the bad look is the 14-2 Warriors with Jimmy Butler in the lineup after acquiring him, losing to a team without Joker, without Jamal Murray, and without Christian Brown. So you're taking out not only three starters, the two best players, although Aaron Gordon last night had something to say about that, and then CB, who's been really your most consistent player opposite of Joker, because you know what you're getting from him every night, whereas MPJ you don't. AG's dealing with the injuries, and Jamal had such a slow start, certainly more consistent of late, and his assist turnover ratio has been really good. But yeah, with Draymond Green starting, with Steph Curry, and with Jimmy Butler,
that's what's not a good look.
Not a good look. And as we were following that game along, I looked down at first. I'm like, oh, what's this going to be? Oh, 21-15. And then you're just kind of checking in throughout. It's like, whoa. Now it's a 3-point game, 97-94, whatever. Then it's a 9-point game again. And it really is a credit to Michael Malone, his staff, and those players, starting with Aaron Gordon. But then you throw in Michael Porter Jr., Russell Westbrook, being vintage Russell Westbrook again. And it's just another sign of this team has the pieces.
Of course.
Will they put it together when it matters?
And that's going to be really that's going to be the tell, that's kind of a wait and see sort of situation, because we know they have the talent. I just, my frustration with seeing national media heads speak that way and be so strongly opinionated about something. I haven't seen that same reporter make headlines for talking about the fact that Jokic has actually played more games than Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, and LeBron James this year. Okay, we see Jokic play a lot. And when he shouldn't play, he still does. And we know that. He's very transparent about the fact that don't sit me. I'm fine. I can play. I can be there for my team. So for such a big win for the Denver Nuggets in so many ways, to get AG back out there, to see Russ get hot again, and to see them do that with a lot of their second unit guys, no Jokic, no Jamal. We know how heavily this Nuggets team relies on Nikola Jokic. So to see them get such a dominant win against one of the hottest teams in the league right now, and the first thing you have to say is that it's not a good look. that the Nuggets chose to rest Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. It's a weird thing to do. I don't know where this energy comes from towards the Denver Nuggets, but I have not seen this same reporter talk about Donovan Mitchell only playing 61 games, or Steph Curry 59, or LeBron James 58. Jokic has played more than all three of those guys, and that's just three that I decided to pick from. I picked some of the hottest teams right now and picked their star players, and Jokic is playing more than those three guys, and that's just the random list I put together. Can't imagine how many other players he's played more games than. And we certainly don't hear these national media heads discussing when or how LeBron James chooses to rest. In fact, I didn't hear them say a word about LeBron James not playing against the Denver Nuggets last week. Didn't hear a word. Didn't hear a word about Luka Doncic not playing against the Denver Nuggets last week. But sure enough, when Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray don't play against the Golden State Warriors, all of a sudden it's a bad look for the league, and we've got all these very strong opinions about it. So I just think it's weird. It just makes you look like a hater at that point, and I just don't understand where it comes from.
Maybe it's just because the game was on ESPN, although some people are maybe more, a company man or a company woman. You would think that'd be Mike Greenberg getting mad about that, since he's one of the faces of their network. And the game on Friday, because of all the college basketball tournament conference tournaments going on, the game was on NBA TV. So you had Turner announcers, you had Spiro Ditas and Steve Smith calling the game, and Dennis Scott nationally. And the game wasn't on ESPN versus last night's game being on ESPN. Thursday night, though, we knew that LeBron was going to be out. We saw Luka drop 45 or whatever it was in that loss to the Bucks. And not a surprise. I don't know if he even made the trip to Denver. If he did, if he stayed in the hotel, or if he was in the back. I didn't see him come in, but he wasn't on the bench. Did he take a flight to LA, or did he land in Denver and then have the team play and take him to LA or whatever? But that's as many games as Luka's missed because of injury. Understanding why they sat him, I get that. But yeah, for him to call out the Nuggets and Joker, who plays through so much, and CB, who's played through some bumps and bruises, I know, because I have him on my fantasy team in our championship round.
You're probably itching for him to get back.
It started last night, and it goes 2 weeks. I already don't know if I'm going to get Jalen Williams. I know I don't have Anthony Davis and Paul George. That's my fault for drafting those guys. And AD was great all year, but I'm not going to have him for these championship rounds, this championship week. OKC only has 6 games instead of 7 or 8. So I'm kind of hosed there on SGA and Jalen Williams. And then Trey Murphy III messes his shoulder up. So I'm basically locked into the idea that I'm getting second place.
BK doesn't like to lose.
I don't like to lose, especially because
BK's fiercely competitive,
and it's money. I like money.
And guess what? I don't like to lose either. And to be honest with you, I actually am very disappointed in myself. You just said I like money. I actually last night, sitting on the couch, told my fiance. Very weird to hear me say that out loud. Told my fiance last night. He's like, we were talking about the fact that there's no Jokic, there's no Jamal, there's no CB. I said, cool. Take Russ for a triple-double, take MPJ rebounds, take Aaron Gordon threes. I did not place it myself. Of course not, because I'm just blabbing to blab. I'm sitting there just scrolling through TikTok, and I tell him, take the rebounds, take the threes, take the triple-double. They all hit. He actually did not hit his parlay, however, because he decided to throw Kuminga in there. And I sat there the whole game, and I said, the one that you decided to go off on your own with will be the one leg that screws you. Sure enough, it did. But yeah, great team win by this Denver Nuggets team. Can't say the same, of course, about the Wizards game, which I did not get to give my opinions on because I was traveling for a wedding. But yikes, that buzzer beater definitely hurt. I saw one of the comments up there say, have you gotten over that? Yeah, you kind of have to get over it.
It should have never been that close.
It should have never been that flipping close. And honestly, the whole game, I just kept refreshing my score app and looking.
You're at a wedding.
And I'm at a wedding, so I'm supposed to be locked into the love, like enjoying the moment. I'm scrolling and refreshing and going, here we go again. Here we go again. That we are against the Wizards right now.
And when you're one of the worst first quarter teams in the league, you're certainly a slow starter. You're the worst first quarter defensive team, or you're 29th, I guess, and worst in the whole first half. To be up 44-30 after one, you're like, okay, they're going to cruise. Joker will get to sit in the fourth. And the reason I was thinking about it is because last week in the semifinals, I was playing against Joker. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so great. CB will keep playing and Joker will sit. Now, they both had good games, but he obviously had to play the entire game. I was just biting my nails on that. But then to have the opportunity for Jordan Poole to win it at the buzzer there with a minute or 1.8 seconds left, it should have never been that close.
Oh, and the defense was an absolute dumpster fire in the fourth quarter. There were so many different moments that I watched where I was like, they're just not even trying. They were just letting people just pass them, just kind of keeping their feet still. And so I kind of now want to go into last night's game against the Warriors because, like we keep mentioning, and of course it's the title of the show, no Jokic, no problem. Well, that's all good and great because they were able to win without Nikola Jokic.
We're kind of half kidding. We understand.
We're actually super kidding because at the end of the day, there is no world in which I am implying that this Nuggets team is better without Jamal and without Nikola Jokic and without CB. I actually want to say there were a lot of people out there, including myself, because I kind of ran out of room making a graphic for it, but I don't think enough people were also bringing some serious attention to the fact that CB being out is a big deal for this Nuggets team because he's been very consistent for this Nuggets team.
Well, with perimeter defense, especially knowing that Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler are over there.
Oh, yeah.
And if they do play the Warriors, that is the matchup right now. And that's a very realistic matchup, Nuggets Warriors in the opening round. You're going to have to mix and match Jamal and Russ on Steph for the most part, CB on Jimmy Butler, but CB will also draw some Steph Curry. Nonetheless, Jimmy Butler's a leading scorer.
Yep.
That's a direct result of CB not being on him. Steph, your second leading scorer, and he's Steph, and I understand he was 3 for 10 at one point from 3. I guess I didn't see what he finished with. But nonetheless, taking your best perimeter defender off the court is going to be an issue to make that up, even with Peyton Watson getting to play more. And I think that's a good thing. That's where it's easy to go glass half empty when they have these dumb losses, especially one as bad as Saturday.
Gosh.
But if you want to be a glass half full kind of Nuggets fan, and I think that's a lot of people out there, and it's something we've talked to Michael Malone about kind of throughout the year and brought it up a bunch on this show. They're having to use different lineups than they ever would want to use if everyone's healthy. Hunter Tyson would not be starting in any world where this version of the Nuggets are all healthy. But because you're having to do this and you're having to play Zeke so much more and you're having to use DeAndre Jordan here and there, but you know what you have there. You know you're going to get Julian Strawther back, but Peyton Watson getting healthy and obviously Russ still being Russ and AG, knock on wood with that calf, looking like Superman, and MPJ being more involved. This team is equipped to make a run to the finals and to win it all. And so your hope is, if you're glass half full, is that all these mixed and match lineups will come together. Michael Malone and his staff will have the right recipe, and it's going to change series to series. We saw that last year.
It's changed week to week all season long.
Right. And some of that's been based on availability.
Who's available, yeah.
Let's just pretend, and that makes it easy now. We know it can change by April 19th when the playoffs start. But let's pretend that they're healthy and everyone's dressed and Julian Strawther's back and they're dressed. The opening round series may look different.
Right.
Look at the way Peyton Watson was used against the Lakers versus the way he's used against the T-Wolves last year, or MPJ's availability and not availability, just his production. If it's not where you need it to be, then maybe you have to take him off the court. Whatever's going on there. So just hold out hope. If they fall to the 7th seed and they fall off a cliff in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you have reason to panic. But a win last night reminds you, okay, these guys have pride, have some character, can play defense. And you can't just say, oh, well, Joker wasn't out there, so that's why they're maybe a little bit better in the paint, because Joker's a much better defender than those numbers indicate, and we've covered that. And Jamal Murray, we know, is kind of game to game and quarter to quarter with his defense. But you did take CB off the court, who's your best, perimeter defender.
But can I say just from if we break down the numbers of it all, of course, we have seen the numbers prove that Jokic is not as bad of a defender as people want to say that he is. But what I have also played devil's advocate on is he does not pass the eye test when it comes to defense. There's a lot of moments where you watch Jokic play defense and or not play defense where he does not pass the eye test. It just looks lazy. It looks like a lack of effort. The overwhelming response to what we saw last night against the Golden State Warriors was an overall max effort for 4 quarters from every guy out there. I do think, based on the game last night, that if you wanted to walk away with one thing and you wanted to overreact like I tend to do, get used to it, the defense looks better without Jamal and Nikola Jokic out there. Now, some of that could just be the fact that the other guys step up and rise to the occasion and know that they're without Jokic and know they're without Jamal and know they're without one of their best perimeter defenders in CB, so they do rise to the occasion. But I have seen a pattern all season long where it feels like we're missing a star. They're not available, and we see better and the best basketball out of the team that is available because they do rise to the occasion. Now, it does pose a question, BK, that I want to get your thoughts on, which is, does this Nuggets team rely too much on Nikola Jokic? I think naturally, of course you do. He's the best player in the world. It's hard not to. But I think subconsciously, we see this Nuggets team just get this complacency about them that to the eye test does read lazy. It does read no effort. It does read really bad at defense because that's how it appears to the naked eye. And I do think there's a world in which even maybe some of the coaches that just know Nikola Jokic is as smart and as talented as he is, he will figure it out. I think sometimes we rely too much. Hell, I do as a fan. I rely too much on the fact that at the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter, we're back, baby, because Nikola Jokic is out there. And that's really not how we should be feeling as Nuggets fans, given the talent that is on the roster and the surrounding cast that Jokic has. So is there a world, BK, in which we, meaning Nuggets Nation, coaches, Jokic's supporting cast, relies too much on the best player in the world, and rightfully so?
I think that's human nature. The interesting thing about the way Joker plays basketball compared to almost every other team's best player, and I know Luka can go for triple doubles. James Harden has that. And just the assist piece, take the rebounding out. But there's only those handful of guys forever. LeBron, when he's dialed in, we know his career numbers are 27, 7, and 7, but he can go north of 7 assists. But the guys that make everybody better, Steve Nash, John Stockton, Magic Johnson, even Michael Jordan. But when you have a best player, it's easy to watch them go to work or work in a two-man game and stay out of the way, especially on offense. Then on defense, we brought this up the other day, but I'm going to bring it up again. It's been now, quick math tells me, because at the time when I got the stat was 23 games, 25 games without AG. When Aaron Gordon's on the court with Joker, it makes Joker a better defender because he's not having to help other people. I think as Peyton Watson plays more, that will also help. They're different kinds of defenders, but then it's not Joker trying to make up for Jamal and MPJ at the same time and whoever the other guy might be, if it's not Zeke, especially when it is Russ. We know Russ active hands and can be good on the ball, but I don't know if Russ is great across the board switching. And we understand that it's as much anything about effort, not communication. That they are communicating. You know,
one could argue the Nuggets are the best communicators given how efficiently they can pass and facilitate their offense.
Yeah, they run their offense and they are the most efficient. And it helps when you have the most efficient player. And so knowing, but you're absolutely right that you know you have to step up. Just I go back to probably one of their best wins early on was when they beat OKC without Jamal, and they stepped up in that moment. They almost beat the Rockets that night where they lost Joker in warmups, but didn't. And if I'm not mistaken, they didn't have AG that night either.
Even the way they were fighting in the game against the first game against OKC just a week or so ago. I know they lost that game, but we talk about how it was much closer than the end
or their
score.
Celtics games here.
They do fight through it quite a bit.
Yeah, Cleveland, if they were to play Cleveland in the finals, is a good problem. They just have to be better across the board defensively and on the perimeter. But the other thing too, and it wasn't that their percentage was great last night. They do hold the Warriors to just 8 threes made, and I went and double checked. Steph 4 of 14. You'll take that all day. Not taking 14, but only making 4. This is the best shooter that's ever walked the earth. You'll take those 8, but the Nuggets made 14. And so I'm checking with Danny Hyatt, their stats guru over at Altitude TV. There's a number that it feels like, and we've brought this up. It feels like 12 or 13 threes. If we look at a box score from all their wins, not that in every one of those, but every game where they've probably hit 12 or 13 threes, and they hit 14 last night, they win those games. Yeah. And so it's not that they need to shoot 54 and make 19, make 20, make 21. But if it feels like right around 12 or 13, if they make that, it's, and I know that kind of goes without saying, but it's just a little thing that a couple more shots go in, you're in better position than, oh, that shot's just not falling. And I think about some of those losses to Minnesota last year. Those were all good looks for the most part. They just weren't going in. And then, especially in that game 6, like these are open threes. If they're watching that game, like these are open threes, they're just missing them. And that happens. But if they can get to that number, and so I want to see, is there a magic number? But it feels like without having the data right in front of us. Feels like if they can get to a dozen threes or more, they're going to win almost all of those games.
Yeah, I mean, because they also still are one of the best teams in the paint, and we know that they haven't succumbed
And in
to
transition,
in transition, especially with CB out there. And you also know that they have not succumbed to the live and die by the three method that a lot of other teams have. So if they can just sprinkle some of that that nice 3-point shooting in there, it does feel like they have a pretty unstoppable offense. Now, I will say, shout out to AG. I mean, it was very, very clear last night how badly this Nuggets team has been missing AG on both sides of the floor. He plays big and strong. And offensively, he's been bringing the heat as well. 38 points for him. He knows how to light it up from the 3-point line. I never thought in my life I would ever be saying that, but he really is right now. And what I will say is this Denver Nuggets team, as much as they've struggled all season long, offense has not been what I've worried about. This team is built to score. When you look at the players that are in this starting five and beyond, this is a team that is built to score. That's not the issue. The issue is big and strong. That is their issue. And I do think that without Nikola Jokic there, the supporting cast is forced to play a little bigger and stronger under the rim. And it does bode very well for them. You got to see that with a healthy AG last night. And of course, to BK's point, when you've got AG in full health and available, it does take away some of the pressure off of Nikola Jokic to be that defensive guy because you've got Aaron Gordon. So definitely want to give a shout out and give flowers to Aaron Gordon for showing up and showing out. And of course, Russell Westbrook with a triple-double. You know, I think it's been a very interesting dynamic watching the evolution of Russ and Jamal on the floor at the same time, because I think at first, at the beginning of the year, that wasn't super seamless. And then I think the more that Jamal got on board with the fact that Russ is here to make your life easier, take advantage of that. When we started to see that, that's when we started to see them winning, 13 of 15 and going on the road and having these hot streaks ahead of the All-Star break. And so that's where I think we started to see that dynamic get better. But then Russ gets injured. Russ is out for a bit. Russ comes back and it feels like he's kind of doing too much. And so you needed him to kind of rein it in and get focused again, and then trying to figure out that dynamic again felt like the beginning of the season between Jamal and Russ, because Jamal had to step up a lot when Russ was not available. So I don't think a lot of people give enough thought or consideration to just how inconsistent this starting five has been, not in their points and in their stat lines, but in their availability. And that does make it really hard to build continuity and to find that dynamic and figure out what that looks like. Because also keep in mind, Russ clicked with Jokic much faster than most players will click with another superstar. I mean, this is a Hall of Famer and the best player in the world. It doesn't always happen that seamlessly. So when we had Russ out with an injury, then you get him back. Nights like last night prove that he is a Hall of Famer. There's a reason that he is as loved by the masses as he is, and why he will go down as one of the greatest, because he knows how to take control. And sometimes there can, those turnovers can be costly at times, of course, but he is Russell Westbrook for a reason. And last night proved that with no Jokic and Jamal. He really stepped up and was the leader of the team in so many ways, despite Aaron Gordon being the show off.
Yeah, you're not accidentally whatever it is, 9-time All-Star,
not at all,
first team All-NBA and NBA MVP. You don't accidentally win the MVP award. I understand there's debates in given years, but if you go back through history, I'd be willing to bet every single NBA MVP, and you can't say this in the NFL. Like Sean Alexander's not winning or not going to wear a gold jacket. And I understand the Basketball Hall of Fame is a little more, I don't call it liberal, but broader. They'll take college and international into play. But based on what he's done in 17 years in the NBA, is here 17, Russell Westbrook will be in the Naismith Hall of Fame. Absolutely. And it'll probably be a couple of years after, instead of they kind of took away the 5-year thing. That's how Carmelo Anthony is eligible this year, just a couple of years. But that he's not done. And you saw last night, I did see the note from Dan Hyatt about Russ's 16 assists. He's the first player not named Nikola Jokic to have 16 assists since Michael Malone became head coach a decade ago. And I don't know how many more 16 assist nights he'll have, but to know that he can still give you that triple double, still bring
17 years in, he can still do it,
still bring that energy. And so and we've talked about this a lot too, and you just kind of touched on it. Not only them clicking well, but Joker realizing they needed Russell Westbrook, not a player like Russell Westbrook, but actually Russell Westbrook himself. And for a guy that admittedly he's made $350 million in his career on the court, but to come here for essentially league minimum at $2 million
Pretty incredible.
and be a part of this. And there's no reason to think he doesn't want to be back on a similar deal next year or something along those lines, because it's easy to see how much fun he's having playing. And we can kind of chronicle all the things that we have. But as he got that steal and breakaway dunk, or at least he got the breakaway. Did he get the steal too against the Lakers? He definitely had the dunk.
Steal and dunk.
To seal the game after they were up 3. And you're like, okay, LA kid doing it to one of his 2 former teams. We know it just never really worked out for him in LA.
Right. It doesn't work out for a lot of players in LA. Let's be real.
Well, and in their hometowns. But when you're an LA kid, played at UCLA, played in the Final Four as a freshman with Kevin Love, if my math is right on that, I think it is. But he didn't even really play that. Like, his UCLA career wasn't what Peyton Watson's was, or
right.
it was better than that. But the point is, with the Lakers, the team he certainly grew up. He definitely grew up cheering for one of those teams, and odds are it was the Lakers. But between Kobe and Shaq and everything else, and knowing, Russ being 36 years old, he's the perfect age to be loving those guys. To have it not work out in LA, but just he's not in New York, he's not in Boston, he's not in Miami,
right?
He's not in Charlotte, he's not far away. He is close to where he grew up. He plays 4 times a year in his hometown, and it's easy to get there and easy for his family to get back. But to be here and to be comfortable, it feels like, barring something crazy, he'll not only play next year, but however many years he wants to play, he'll play here because he loves playing with Joker, and everyone is enjoying this version of Russell Westbrook. And I think it's surprising some of the people that saw how much he didn't enjoy basketball, and thus it made him potentially kind of surly in how he dealt with the media.
I mean, look at Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler made it very clear that he had lost his passion, his spark, his love for the game.
Which is crazy for a guy making $50 million.
Right.
But you're right.
It's very crazy to think that when you're making that much money and you've had quite a bit of success, just personal success in Miami, that you could be so unhappy. And look at him now. He does seem like he's got a new life to him. A rejuvenated version of Jimmy Butler is what we're seeing. And it does perfectly embody that the environment that you're in absolutely matters. And I think Russell Westbrook is another great example of that, where you put him in a different environment where he can really flourish, and the team knows how to utilize him, and he's around teammates that understand his game and respect his game. It can make a huge difference. So was there a comment you wanted to?
Yeah. Third from the bottom there, Nino Slavs right there. Our guy John helping us out today, even though I am Serbian, so he lets us know. But Nino Slav says, I feel Jokic puts too much stress on others, especially if they make a mistake, so they play scared. I'm not saying that there isn't something to that, but because he's had to play with so many of these young guys, and you look at Zeke Naji specifically, or even Jalen Pickett at times, they realize, and Peyton has certainly talked about that. I want to say it was early on this year in one of those first couple games where Joker hits him on the baseline and the ball goes through his legs, or that was at the end of last year, whenever it was. It's like, I have to be ready for that. I just remember Peyton saying that. Michael Jordan was that way. Kobe Bryant was that way. Now, Joker's not fighting anybody in practice, but you are going to see him get in your face and make sure that they're in the right spot, because it's kind of twofold. Yes, Joker sees everything before it happens. And Magic Johnson has a great clip from a podcast that he was on talking about Joker being the best player in the world right now and having such a off the charts basketball IQ, which Magic certainly had. But if you just assume that Joker or whatever he's telling you is right, and so whether it's on offense or defense, if you don't do something the way he envisioned it happening,
right,
and it plays out like that, and you weren't in the right defensive position, or you didn't make the right play on offense, whether it be on the ball or off the ball, he's going to let you know. And
because he's a teacher as well.
Right. And it's to make you better and to make the team better.
Yep.
It's not like, and these aren't apples to apples, but Peyton Manning basically got Cody Latimer benched for the rest of Peyton's time because Cody couldn't pick up the offense to the level Peyton needed it. So it didn't matter that he was a second round pick that could jump out of the stadium and make a great play in the end zone, which is what he did in training camp before you really got into the complexity of the playbook. After that happened his rookie year, Cody Latimer barely stepped on the field other than special teams. He was a second rounder that's just going out on kick coverage because Peyton couldn't trust him. Nikola knows that he has to trust everybody. So I think that it's, hey, just follow my lead, listen to what I'm saying, and also play hard. That's its own frustrating thing when the defense isn't there. And he's not on them about that all the time. But if you see him being demanding, it's just because he knows they can execute whatever they didn't execute more effectively.
Of
And
course.
so I always applaud when you see those videos, because we see how Joker is in the press conferences or in the locker room, and kind of how understated he can be. But then you see those shots in the huddle, and you see him in guys' faces, or you see his frustration often at the refs. But you understand that he just wants the game to be played perfectly, and he's trying to help you reach that goal with their team.
Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, I want to bring attention to something that you texted me, which was a clip of Magic Johnson calling Nikola Jokic the best player in basketball right now. What were your thoughts on, because I think that's there's a lot of conversations that we entertain about Nikola Jokic and where he stacks up against some of the greats. And so to hear a great talk about Nikola Jokic as a great, that's a pretty cool thing. What was your take on hearing that clip from
Well, and
Magic
the other thing
Johnson?
too, that as it started, was Byron Scott, who was obviously a great player, borderline Hall of Famer, but won a bunch of championships there, also an LA guy, but with the Lakers, and then a coach for a long time in the NBA. And now he's back to just being an analyst. He said, I'm not ready to put him up with the other greats, which I thought was interesting. It's like, okay, well, what else do you need to see? And maybe for Byron's more championships. For everybody, they have their own scale with how they're going to measure greatness. And so I tweeted, arguably the best passer in the history of the NBA. I almost felt bad saying arguably, because Magic forever was widely considered the best passer in the history of the game, and at that size. But to have the vision that he did, I think LeBron's come along and shown his vision. Obviously, Stockton leads in assists. Steve Nash was a wizard. And Joker is in that category with those guys.
Yeah.
And for Magic to recognize Joker's greatness and understand that, yeah, he has that same basketball IQ that I had, that LeBron has, that Larry Bird had, that Michael Jordan had. It would be interesting if Michael Jordan and Kobe cared more about triple doubles and or about assists, because there's no reason to think those guys, and I understand the game's changed a little with 3-point shooting. We saw Kobe become a better 3-point shooter, but knowing how many more points you could get by just shooting threes, if they really could be like 30 and 10 guys, which is essentially what Joker is now, or 29 and 10, versus the 5 or 6 assists they get when they're double or triple teamed and you got a guy cutting or knocking down a three. But because I do think that MJ and Kobe saw the game the same way. But for Magic, who was the gold standard in terms of court vision and seeing things that nobody else saw, and always being accused of having eyes in the back of his head, for Magic and Magic's been an analyst for a long time, it was obviously a big part of ABC and ESPN and TNT before Shaq came along. But for Magic to point out just how it's basketball, it's Joker's basketball IQ, that's what sets him apart.
Yeah.
Is just another
I've
feather.
definitely shared the same tune about Jokic. I think his IQ is what is uncomparable to anyone in the league right now. And people can get upset by that.
Maybe LeBron's too, but LeBron's physical limitations.
But see, I kind of don't agree. I think that yes, LeBron James has a very high basketball IQ. I'm not taking that away from him. But I also think LeBron James, in a lot of moments where he is a great player, one of the greats, if not the greatest, he's tapping also into that athletic ability that he has, where he's strong, he's big, he's fast, he's quick. So that's where I think Jokic is better than LeBron, is he doesn't have those natural abilities. I mean, he does. He is quick. He is,
and he does have
but he's
soft
quicker
hands
with his mind than he is with his feet. And LeBron is probably quicker with his feet. I don't know. That's where I give Jokic an edge.
I think it would be
LeBron.
hard to quantify, but I go back to conversation I had with Melvin Booker, who, like Michael Malone, worked on Mike Brown's staff in Cleveland with LeBron. And this isn't even talking about Joker. This is just about LeBron. I'm talking about Melvin Booker about LeBron and how he saw the game 2 and 3 moves ahead, 2 and 3 play. I say moves. I think Jason Kidd had that. I know Steve Nash had it. It's hard to get beyond that. And I don't know how you can quantify it. So I'm not going to say that you're wrong. Hard. But LeBron is in. There's only a handful of guys, and we just listed most of them. And then I brought J Kidd into it also. But that they saw the game, knowing what's going to happen here and here and here. And I go back to a buddy of mine, Tony Mejia, who's a longtime NBA reporter, asking Nash, because Nash had, even all the way back to Santa Clara, had been accused of like throwing a low pass to a guy to make sure he didn't shoot, knowing that the next pass was going to lead to an easy bucket for somebody else.
Right.
And he said that when he asked Steve totally copped to it, admitted like, yeah, I would do that all the time. If a guy that I thought wasn't going to get a good shot or was going to take a dumb shot or wasn't going to make his shot, if I get him the ball where he still catches it, but then he knows he can't go up with it, so he has to swing it. And so that level of chess, when everyone really is kind of playing checkers or just being a better chess master versus just the average player, I think that they're on the same plane. And I think even if you ask Michael Malone in his honest moments, and Malone was around LeBron for 4 years in Cleveland, that he would say that they're in the same. It's hard to differentiate.
Of course. I just think we don't let Jokic just have his damn moment ever. Nobody does.
I think we do.
No, I do, but I'm not enough. This is the best we're talking about Magic Johnson himself saying this is the best player in basketball right now, and yet we always are finding ways to downplay and or disregard how great he is by either drawing a comparison or making a parallel, or the Nuggets beat the Warriors without these players, but it's a disgrace to the league that they sat Nikola Jokic against the Warriors. Like, it's always something. Everybody's always got something to say. And my point is, there's a lot of things that LeBron James does significantly better than Nikola Jokic, which is why we're even able to entertain the GOAT conversation with LeBron James. Not even entertain, it is the conversation with LeBron James.
He and MJ.
But there are things that you can give Jokic credit for just being the best right now. It's hard for people to do that.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like right now, Joker is a better basketball player than LeBron across the board. He's having the best statistical season in the history of basketball, averaging a nearly 30-point triple-double and not just 10 rebounds. He's top 3 in the league in rebounding at 12, 13 a game. And he's second in the league in steals, and his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage are all top 3 in the league. So he's top 3 in the league in 6 major categories.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that he's not, that would be the next major category, would be blocks. So 6 of really the 7. I guess free throw percentage would be 8th, but people are going to put free throw percentage after field goal percentage and 3-point percentage because those just affect the game flow more. Free throw, I understand it's different. And Joker doesn't get to the line anywhere near the way the refs have put SGA there, or like Karl Malone back in the day would live on the line. And I understand that. But Joker is the best player. And so even when you have guys who have been Joker haters, like Kendrick Perkins, who was as loud as anyone in ringing the bell about Joel Embiid, he's become, in a lot of ways, because of how loud Stephen A is on SGA, one of Joker's biggest defenders, but the one that call him the best player on the planet a lot, and to talk about where he ranks all time. And then you have Magic saying it. Charles Barkley said it for the last couple of years. Shaq, who doesn't want to give credit to any big men, hardly ever, and likes to be hard on them and wants more out of them.
Yeah.
Marvels at how great Joker is. And so I think, and listening to the way LeBron and KD, who are the 2 best players along with Steph of the last decade in a post-Kobe world, the way KD and LeBron, whether it's in the playoffs or KD just 2 Fridays ago, talking about Joker and that conversation. He's like, ever since he won that first MVP, you can't put him second in any conversation. Just saying Joker. So that's who you have to listen to.
Right.
Getting mad about them sitting, those guys are filling segments. So I'm not as worried about that. I'm just saying that LeBron's IQ hasn't dropped off, but they're in such rare company that it's
right. Well, when Coach Malone, I just saw on Twitter when Coach Malone was asked about the comments that were made by the ESPN reporter in regards to Jokic and Jamal sitting against the Warriors, Coach Malone's response was, I don't even know who that guy is. So that was basically his way of saying, F you. I don't really care what you think. And we'll just leave it at that. So this has been another Guerrilla Sports Off Court. I'm Liv Moods. That's Brandon Krisztal. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. You can head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money, getting you a better interest rate, lowering your monthly payments. Shout out to our friends over at Trusted American. We'll have you covered following tomorrow night's game, as well as some more episodes and shows all day on Thursday. So make sure you're subscribed to the Guerrilla Sports YouTube and following us on all things socials. Let's go Nuggets, and we'll see you very soon.